Why hello there and welcome back to Some Weirdo on the Internet Reviews Obscure Role-Playing Games. And in this episode, we're gonna get violent. Violence, the game of Egregious and Repulsive Bloodshed, was released in 1999 by Hogshead Press and is a work of satire, which I realize should be obvious, but, you know, Poe's Law. The concept behind violence is perhaps best left to the book's introduction.
Violence is a lot like Dungeons & Dragons by that other company. You and your friends play characters in an imaginary world. You wander about a maze, kicking down doors, killing whatever you find on the other side, and taking its possessions. The main difference is this. The world isn't some third-rate fantasy writer's drivel about elves and dwarves and magic spells, but the world of today. The doors you kick down aren't those of a subterranean dungeon, but those of decent, honest, hard-working people who merely want to live their lives. And the things you steal aren't magic items and gold pieces, but stereos, computers, jewelry, and whatever other items of value you can lift.
So basically, it is your standard murder hobo scenario, except removed from a fantasy setting where you have the pretense that your character's actions are justified because the people you're killing are monsters. It is a commentary on senseless violence in role-playing games in the form of a senselessly violent role-playing game. It is a thing that creates a situation that you cannot disconnect from and just accept that you are acting within the established parameters without considering the moral implications of your character's actions. So a +1 for concept. It is a thing that wants to say something and does so in a really fun way.
As per the general idea of the game, characters in violence are common street criminals. We have 5 attributes and roll 3d6 for each, then add all the values together and compare to the reroll number, which starts at 40 but can be increased by a variety of things like giving our character outstanding warrants, STDs, or paying the game master. If the sum of all attributes is less than the reroll number, we can reroll any of our attributes until the sum is equal to or greater than the reroll number. So let's up the number a bit and reroll our constitution. We then have several skills which start at 3 and 100 points to increase them, with various maximums specified by the skill, but overall a maximum value of 18. Then we look up our constitution and pain threshold values on a chart and roll for our hit points and pain points. That was just a practice roll. And so was that. Yes, that is the actual roll. Jokes aside, the rules do basically state you can roll 3 times. And here's our character, but since if we're going to be arrested, we want it to be for something more interesting than indecent exposure, we will need some equipment. We get $1d600 to buy our equipment, and a notable aspect here is the hide factor. Basically, illicit items have a positive hide factor, and things that help you hide illicit items have a negative hide factor, and I will explain more about this later, but for now, this character is done.
And that is it. The joke made in the book is that it's the easiest, dumbest system I can possibly get away with. And, I mean, it kinda is. I do like some things, like the idea behind the reroll number basically being like a version of the standard, if all of your attributes are under X, you can reroll, but also allowing you to selectively reroll your chosen attributes instead of having to just reroll the entire character, and also giving you the option to give your character a minor penalty in exchange for better attributes. Also, the way that all of the attributes are geared exclusively towards violence, except for a literal everything else attribute, is thematically appropriate. But then having skills like music lore, video games, and swimming kinda undermines that. So, a 3 out of 6 for character creation, it is okay. So, picking back up from character creation, the character's hide factor is used in determining the police harassment number, which is calculated by all of the character's positive hide factors, plus other bonuses for things like outstanding warrants, recent crimes in the areas, and other incredibly relevant character traits. Then when the characters encounter the police, a die is rolled, with the specific die type being determined by how long the police have to check them out. And if the result is equal to or less than the police harassment number, they have attracted the police's attention. And this is something that I kinda like. It is a neat little mechanic for a game in which you play as criminals and can take into account things like how suspicious you seem to the authorities. Now, the base mechanics are essentially the same as that, except that the target number is set by whatever skill or attribute is being tested, and the die rolled is determined by the difficulty. So let's say that our character wants to repair a broken pinball machine. Obviously, that will use the everything else attribute, and let's say it's very hard, so they will roll a d60, and probably fail because it's probably hard to fix a pinball machine.
Ranged combat works the same as any other check, with a variety of modifiers for different situational conditions. The roll is made against our relevant firearm skill with a standard difficulty of 20, but let's say that the target is 30 to 50 feet away and has some cover, bumping the die up by 2 steps. So we roll a d40 and succeed on a result equal to or less than our handgun skill. Which we do. Just take my word for it, I'm not going to get into the two opposing schools of reading a d40. There is no form of bullet dodging here, so a successful attack, player or NPC, automatically hits, dealing hit point and pain point damage, with a character being killed or incapacitated respectively if they run out of either.
Melee combat, on the other hand, is simply resolved with opposed rolls, with the dice being modified by things like getting into a knife fight, without a knife. And there are some other odds and ends, but basically that is the mechanics, and I like them. The idea of changing the die being rolled is a clever way to add difficulty modifiers to a roll-under system, while retaining the simplicity that makes roll-under systems appealing. Although it does mean that the players will always be aware of the difficulty of any task they're performing, which I am less of a fan of. It is also a little restrictive, with combat and other criminal activities being the only things that are really covered well, but that is within the scope of the game. Also, I'm not incredibly fond of the pain points. Like, they have a purpose in the game, but I kinda wish that function had been given a better mechanic than just another set of hit points. So a 4 out of 6 for mechanics. There is stuff I like, there is stuff I don't like, but overall it's on the good side of average. There is an okay amount of stuff here, obviously a wide selection of weapons specialized for both damage and pain, as well as information on drugs, and a modest selection of innocent victims for you to rob and murder, all of whom are given nice write-ups to flesh them out as people, because that's kind of the point of the game, is that they're people you're killing and robbing. It's the general idea. There's also an okay selection of police for you to fight, and a section on random treasure, which, of course in this setting, means things you will find on various types of people and inside various types of housing. So basically it is mostly everything you need for a good old-fashioned dungeon crawl, just themed a bit differently, so no adjustment for content. The real star of this game is the writing. The whole thing is very much written in character and with complete contempt for the reader and the entire premise of the game. It is full of fun little things like explicitly stating that you do not have permission to copy the character sheet, and then later just that there isn't a character sheet because they didn't want to make one. Also stating that players can purchase experience points from the publisher, which the Game Master is then required to honor. Which I'm honestly a little surprised Wizards of the Coast hasn't done yet. And while staying in character, they still do a good job explaining the rules, albeit in an incredibly condescending manner. Like, in the section that explains how to roll a d60, it just switches to this incredibly elementary explanation of how to roll dice, like, down to that you have to read the number on the top, except for the d4 that doesn't have a number on top. So it's like, right out of the early 80s, even down to the formatting. And a stupid little touch that I really liked. The layout is it's a 1999 role-playing game. 2-column text, some tables, edgy illustrations, and almost every page breaking in the middle of a paragraph. Although I do like that they use the logo type every single time the title of the book is mentioned. It's a fun little formatting joke. So, a +1 for writing. It is a very fun read, and let's be honest here, that is the primary value of this book. And a 3 out of 6 for presentation. It is as bog standard can be for the time, and I don't think that's part of the joke. And that was Violence, the role-playing game of Egregious and Repulsive Bloodshed. It is a fun work of satire, it is an entertaining read, and it makes its point without being too preachy about it. It is also a fully functional game that, hypothetically, you could play, like, for a lark, but the novelty would probably wear off before the end of your first session. Unless you're the sort of person who actually finds the ideas in this game appealing, in which case, that's what Fatal is for. So overall, a good book and a so-so game. If you would like to check it out yourself, it was re-released under the Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike license, so I will put a link in the description where you can download it. Legally! Which I guess also means that we could hack it legally. So I guess leave a comment if you want me to hack Violence for some reason. I mean, it wouldn't be the dumbest thing I've ever done. Alright, thank you for watching, with an extra special thanks to my Flail Snail level patrons, Randy Mulholland and SC Woolridge. If you'd like to be cool like them, check out my Patreon, where you can get early access to videos and fun stuff that I make for the Patreon. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine too. You can still hit all the lovely buttons, like, subscribe, these other videos. I'm sure they are very good videos that you will enjoy. And I will see you next time.